1460 WVOX.
Now, live from Whitney Media, 1460 WVOX, the Greenburgh Report, with Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner. You can join in the conversation at 914-636-0110. Now on 1460 WVOX, here's Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Good morning, Westchester. I'm Paul Feiner. I'm the Greenburgh Town Supervisor. And for those who do not know, March 31st is the International Transgender Day of Visibility. And my guest today is Dr. Mackenzie Larario, who has been very active in the LGBTQ IA community. And we're going to be discussing the experiences he has, some of the difficulties people who are transgendered have dealing with medical issues, and a Pride Day, that the Greenburgh Pride Rally that is set for Ardsley, Dobbs Ferry on June 10th. So, Dr. Z, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Supervisor Feiner. I just wanted to point out one of the most important and easiest ways we can make our LGBTQ community members feel safe and respected is to use pronouns and chosen names correctly for people. So I just wanted to start the introduction here just to clarify that my pronouns are they and them, and not he. So when referring to me, you would say things like, they are a neurologist, or I have them on my radio program, and my chosen name is Z, although my legal name is Mackenzie. So thank you for having me, and I'm very excited to talk with you about LGBTQ lives in Greenburgh.
Right. I remember first interacting with you a few years ago when you lived in Greenburgh, and you complained about your safety and the safety of the LGBTQ community. And then you got involved in the Greenburgh Human Rights Committee. Could you tell us a little bit about your experiences?
Yeah, thank you. So I think just to start with, the experiences of the community right now are very tough. There's many places in this country over the last couple of years that have been introducing historic rates of legislation against the LGBTQ community, and really removing rights and privileges that allow access to health care, allow discussions of our existence within schools, allow us to perform drag or other performances openly, freedom of expression there. And so there's a lot of, concern about this. Many of these are in red states throughout the country, but just recently, if we follow Rockland Pride channels, they've actually had a bill being considered even in their county that would be Don't Say Gay. And these are things that will trickle into blue states. There's been increasing hate incidences within Westchester County that have been reported by the Human Rights Commission. And so my experiences are not unique or in isolation. I am transgender. I'm an out transgender and non-binary neurologist. I am the first neurologist that's trans feminine and non-binary elected to a leadership position within the American Academy of Neurology. I'm also just getting licensed right now as a social worker, and I'm a graduate student at Fordham University. I transitioned between 2019 and 2021 in Greenburgh, specifically on Main Street in Tarrytown. And, one of the stark differences I noted was between my experiences before I transitioned and afterwards. And I would say that my level of safety and how I was treated with respect and dignity throughout the area, local businesses, just people, our community members on the street, very much changed. And I faced a lot of challenges through this period. And so myself and a bunch of other organizers throughout the area really wanted to start increasing education and awareness on this. So we started to hold events and pride rallies starting in 2021 just to increase awareness. We've created resources for local businesses. We've collaborated with other stakeholders in the area who are doing a lot of this work already for many years before us. Our goal is really to augment that and to increase awareness in the area, specifically in Greenburgh, which, as we know, has a population close to 100,000, but no designated LGBTQ community spaces.
We have to take a break, and then we'll be back in a couple minutes. I'm Paul Feiner with Dr. Z, and we're talking about the impact the transgender community is having on our county and the significance of International Transgender Day of Visibility, which is today. I'm Paul Feiner, Greenburgh Town Supervisor.
1460 WVOX.
Now back to the Greenburgh Report on 1460 WVOX. Once again, here's Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Good morning, Westchester. I'm Paul Feiner. I'm the Greenburgh Town Supervisor, and we have a very interesting, program today. Today is an important day for for residents of the county who are involved with the transgendered community. It's International Transgender Day of visibility, and my guest is Dr. Z. Dr. Z, could you tell us a little bit, about a little bit more about your background and your involvement with the Greenburgh Human Rights Committee?
Yeah, so this work all started with the Greenburgh Human Rights Advisory Committee. Lynn Goodman at the time was the chair. Currently, it's Lane Cobb, who both have been very strong advocates for the work that we started out in 2021. And so at that time, we were responding to just reports of feelings of unsafety in the area. Street harassment was something that was being reported not just by myself, but by other members of the community, including children, minors, who happen to identify as trans or non-binary. So we put together a program at that time in June, which is Pride Month for the LGBTQ community, to advocate for our community, for our safety, and also to celebrate our community. And I think that's a lot of what the International Transgender Day of Visibility is about. It's about our accomplishments. It's about our ability to perform, excel, succeed because we are trans. Being trans is not a limitation. It is something that allows a great bout of strength and diversity and creativity and resilience. So that's something we acknowledge today, too. In June, when we had our first rally, it was a very electrifying performance. We had speakers and we had bands playing and really got to celebrate our community and launched a bunch of other work that we've been doing since then to just continue to raise awareness. Our first rally in 2021 was in Tarrytown. Our second rally last year was in Dobbs Ferry. And then our third rally this year will be June 10th. And it will be a combination of organizers and community members and leaders from not just the town of Greenburgh, but also specifically from Tarrytown, from Dobbs Ferry, and from Ardsley. And we have a lot of support this year from Mayor Kabulian from Ardsley and Matthew Gonzalez from the Ardsley Multicultural Committee. And so we're really excited for this year's rally that's upcoming. And we thought it would be a great day today to talk about it and, just create awareness, because this event is not just for LGBTQ people. It's for anyone, who considers themselves supporters and allies of this community and want to celebrate our community with us on June 10th. And come out to learn a little bit more about what makes our community so diverse, unique, and beautiful. And so that's really what we want to create looking forward to June. In this current legislative climate that's kind of going throughout the country, that there are pockets of areas where there are good people all working together to create a community atmosphere to promote safety, awareness for this community, where, there can be a lot of fear right now in other parts of the country. So we do, want to encourage people from outside of Greenburgh, too, to come by and see what we're about, especially in areas that are nearby where there might be legislation being passed right now which bans or criminalizes the existence, the freedom of expression, or the health care for LGBTQ Americans.
Do you find that these rallies have made, and your activism has made a positive difference, and how has it helped?
Yeah, so I think they have. I think there's still a lot of work to do. One of the things that was really great that came out of this is we're putting together a group of people from multiple villages and areas within the town, and we can collaborate together on various advocacy and activism issues and projects, and really creating a sense of community here that will promote awareness, education, and increasing safety. I think our rallies have created a buzz that there are concerned community members in Greenburgh. They are supporters of the community. They want to make the community better for our LGBTQ community members. And they want to, support causes that will get us more acknowledgement, resources, and support just generally within the town and the villages and other unincorporated areas within the town.
The incident that happened and the school a couple days ago, has that has that had a very negative impact, and are people now targeting the transgendered community? Or are people like does that impact people all? Does it have a negative impact?
Yeah. So I believe you're talking about the school shooting where the shooter happened to be identified as transgender.
Right. That's what I'm right. Are people blaming everybody unfairly?
Yeah. Well, look, that is an instance where the majority of shooters, and there's an overrepresentation of shooters who are cisgender. And when a shooter happens to be cisgender, we don't question the existence of cisgender people. And so my heart and my thoughts and prayers go out to the victims of the school shooting. This was terrible. It saddens me that this happened, regardless of the gender identity of the shooter. I personally haven't seen or observed any increasing hate specifically due to this. However, I'm sure others may have. And I think it just points to a general sentiment within the country and more broadly that right now we are questioning the existence and the safety of LGBTQ Americans and particularly transgender people. There's been a lot of very large studies that look at the transgender community, and it's very clear that there is high levels of discrimination, violence, and victimization against transgender Americans. And one of the things for me that was surprising, because we like to think of New York being a very liberal, progressive place, was that these things happen in blue states and in major metropolitan regions too. And so there are issues that we need to address regarding our safety, and to feel comfortable and accepted and supported and affirmed within our spaces here in Greenburgh. And as I said, one of the biggest things we can do is learn more about pronouns, chosen names, and use those correctly as the person identifies their pronouns, because that just shows that level of support. And I would encourage our businesses and other local storefronts here in Greenburgh to honor and respect your pronouns. Don't assume somebody's gender by the way they look. It's never rude to be like, hi, my name is Z, my pronouns are they, them. Do you mind if I ask your pronouns? That's not rude to ask somebody, what their pronouns are. And so I would encourage more people to do that and learn about that. There's a great guide for pronouns on Glisten. That's Glisten. They have a website which has a pronoun guide which can talk all about the importance of this. But there is literature in the medical journals that show that when we don't affirm a transgender person's identity by using their pronouns and chosen name, that there is increased risk for behavioral health issues, including depression, anxiety, PTSD, and suicidality. So this can be very harmful when it's systemic, and so we should all be striving to do a little better, to learn more about pronouns and to use those correctly, because that's one of the easiest things that a storefront or local business can do to show that they support their transgender community members.
If somebody's transgendered and they're harassed or bullied in Westchester County, what do they do?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of discussions about this. First, I would want to make sure that that person is safe. And so there are resources out there for you. I would recommend contacting the Loft or the Center Lane in White Plains, depending on your age. Center Lane's for youth, and the Loft is for adults. And these are community centers, and they have a lot of resources and services that can just help people find support. Times like that, having been through this type of, violence, victimization, harassment that can occur against somebody's gender identity, it's times like these that we need the most support. So I would first, suggest they lean on our community resources, lean on their, network of supports. There are places to contact and report this. This includes the Westchester County Human Rights Commission, where they can take reports and then investigate. The Anti-Violence Project is a place which is in New York City, but I think would be a good place to receive specific trauma-informed services, because these types of experiences can be very traumatic, and they have experienced professionals that work with community members that happen to face this type of violence or victimization.
We're going to have to take a break in a minute, but I wanted to ask, has the County Human Rights Commission and the DA's office been helpful?
I found that they have some good people working there that are trying really hard to address these issues, but I think the number of hate incidents in the last couple of years are too high for the amount of staff they have, and I would like to see more resources go into that area.
So we could talk a little bit about initiatives that communities could take in the future to help residents who are involved in the LGBT community. And we'll be right back. I'm Paul Feiner, Greenburgh Town Supervisor.
Now back to the Greenburgh Report on 1460 WVOX. Once again, here's Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Hi, I'm Paul Feiner. I'm the Greenburgh Town Supervisor, and we're talking with Dr. Z about the LGBTQ plus community And we also are planning a Greenburgh Pride rally set for Ardsley, Dobbs Ferry on June 10th from 12 to 3 p.m. You've also had a needs assessment survey. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, thank you. And also, I guess, because there's probably a lot of allies listening, there's a long acronym that we associate with our communities, LGBTQ plus, and I just wanted to kind of briefly go through that too. So L is lesbian, G is gay, B is bisexual, T is transgender, Q is queer or questioning, and plus, includes other identities that have more recently been incorporated into the acronym, including intersex, asexual, and two-spirit communities, and allies, of course. So on June 10th, we definitely recommend any allies or supporters, even if they're not part of the LGBTQ community, to join us for our Pride rally. In 2021, with our Pride rally, we held a pilot survey of community members in the area, most of whom attended our rally. It was available in English and Spanish over Google Forms. And we had 38 respondents from the community. And there were some results that I think confirmed some of our suspicions and the reason why we performed the survey in the first place and why we wanted to have the Pride rally in the first place. There were some issues that reported just general sense of safety. About 40% of the respondents said they did not feel safe holding hands with their partner in public. This is an issue that comes up a lot in same-sex couples in particular, because holding hands with your partner could out to the public their sexual orientation. And so sometimes this could be a big issue, and we should be allowed to safely walk down the street hand in hand with the person that we love, just like any other couple would. There was some reports, 57% said they had trouble finding LGBTQ community events. There are great events here in Westchester, as I mentioned, the Loft and Center Lane, Glisten. But a lot of these are more broadly for the county, and for people, especially young children who can't drive. There's really not many spaces here in Greenburgh themselves or the villages to, find community events that are walkable to. And so that's something that we wanted to address with our Pride rallies and other events we've been holding. 41% reported not being able to find an LGBTQ affirming healthcare provider. So as a doctor and a neurologist, that's one personally important to me. And I've been trying to, in some of my advocacy work, educate healthcare providers on LGBT affirming practices and researching better ways to do that, and to educate, providers on the best ways and practices they can help the healthcare of our community. So that's something that's really important too. That if these same issues like pronouns and chosen name and just generally knowing what the needs of our community are is important for our healthcare providers too here in Greenburgh. Nearly 20% reported being bullied or harassed. And we've talked about that earlier in the program, that was one of the reasons why we started this, advocacy movement. 40% reported feeling depressed. And that's, something that's concerning to me, especially during a pandemic where depression is already increasing. Our community is at risk for increased mental health disorders. That's been shown in medical journals, in peer-reviewed literature. And so we do want to be very careful of the mental health of our community and to train providers that provide behavioral health services to be as affirming as possible in the treatment they give to our community. And the last question was, what are the three highest priorities to incorporate into the Greenburgh budget if we were to do so? And the number one priority that our community identified, with 32% of the respondents saying this, was that we need to create a physical space for LGBTQ residents. And, when we created this with this movement with the help of so many people, Lynn Goodman, Jenny Kogan, Paul Rinaldi, Tasha Young helped, and as well Rob Wingate and Joe Cesarano, and probably so many others I'm forgetting. That was always our long-term goal, is someplace that people can walk to and have a safe physical space for them with community events. And so a lot of the work we've been doing so far has just been volunteer, a lot of weekend warriors, people just really from this community and want to make, it safer for adults and children that happen to identify within this community. And yeah, I think this is something that you, Paul, as supervisor can really help us with over time as we kind of create awareness around this, to provide resources and education to, healthcare providers and business owners, to schools, to make them safer for our children. And then also, to provide resources so we can have supported community events, which will make us feel safer. It provides a sense of community. It restores that sense of comfort and dignity for our community members. So, that's one of the things that we really want to start advocating for over the next year or two. And, really would love to hear your thoughts on that.
No, I think what you're doing is great, giving people, the hope and, and they should recognize that they're welcome in the town of Greenburgh, and that we're going to do whatever we can to make sure that they have a good, quality of life and are treated equally, treated fairly by other residents. Is it hard for people in the LGBTQ community to get jobs and employment?
So LGBTQ people can do anything and everything, and I feel we do it better.
I'm talking about
cisgender straight people.
I'm talking about
I will get to that in a second, but when we describe our experiences, there's always this tendency to focus on the negative, and so I want to just also focus on the strengths of our community as well, which is really important. That while there is discrimination out there, there are things that we just, experiences and perspectives that we just offer that are not available from employees who happen to be cisgender and straight. There are discrimination. The National Center of Transgender Equality, if you look at their website, they clearly have statistics that show that 1 in 4 people who are transgender lose a job because of their gender identity, and 3 in 4 75% report that they face discrimination on the job as somebody who's transgender. And there are great resources out there to help people that might be facing workplace discrimination. As I mentioned, the National Center for Transgender Equality. There's also TILDEF, which is the Transgender Legal Defense Education Fund, which is a great nonprofit. As well, there are, great attorneys out there. One of the leading attorneys that handles these issues is Jillian White, who is an amazing attorney that works with transgender clients.
The other thing that I should also mention, it seems like there's been an awful lot of progress in the past 20 or 30 years. My sister, she manages the musical career of a well-known classical musician, Sarah Buchner, and my sister went to Juilliard with her, and and then after she transitioned, she started managing her career, and when she started, there was a lot of resistance from a lot of the music halls all over the world, but now it's she's finding that it's so much easier booking somebody like Sarah, who is, transgendered. There's much more acceptance, and I now find that when Sarah is giving a concert, it's because of the quality of her music rather than because of her sexual identity. Is that something that you would think would be typical? Have you also seen a lot of progress over the past number of years?
I think there has been, and we always like to acknowledge and recognize the work that's been done for decades and decades before, I even came out and started to do my own advocacy work for the community. So there has been a lot of progress. The benchmark we usually like to put out there is in the 1969 Stonewall riot, which was in response to a lot of violence and victimization against the community. And so, that was a long time ago, and we now have laws and policies and a lot more protection of our rights. However, as I was saying before, like in the last few years, there's been rollback and new laws and policies that are antithetical to the health and well-being of our community. So while there's been a lot of progress and being LGBTQ in the workplace is becoming more acceptable and normalized, there's still a lot of work to do to reach equity. And so that's where we're really trying to push things to fight through this recent legislation that is, very, very harmful to our community.
Right. We only have a couple seconds before the break, but after the break, I'm wondering if we could talk about the healthcare, issues. Is it difficult to get help to make the transition and to get the financial help? So let's talk about that after the break.
1460 WVOX.
Now back to the Greenburgh Report on 1460 WVOX. Once again, here's Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Hi, I'm Paul Feiner, Greenburgh Town Supervisor, and today, the International Transgender Day of Visibility, talking to Dr. Z, and one of the issues that I've heard is healthcare coverage. There's people who want to make a transition, and are they having problems, or do people have problems getting the coverage on their employee benefits? And is that an issue that should be taken up in Washington, Albany, and locally?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I think to start with, the answer is yes. And so the standards of care for transgender people, which not everybody medically or surgically transitions. Some people only socially transition, meaning they could change their name, they could change their pronouns, they could change their gender expression. And that doesn't necessarily require hormone therapy or gender-affirming surgery. But for those that want them, they should be able to access them because all the data shows in the medical journals that these are life-saving types of treatment. And so they're medically necessary. And these are covered by CMS, Medicare and Medicaid. So there is a standard on a federal level that, these should be covered, and they're also expert recommended in guidelines from the World Professional Association of Transgender Health. However, large commercial insurers have been slow to catch up in terms of providing gender-affirming services covered in their health care benefits. So if somebody does not have coverage of these services, they can be quite expensive. And so people are often left to pay out of pocket or find other ways to make money to pay for these surgeries, which may include sex work. And these are things that can really be covered and can provide a great benefit to our community and our collective mental health so that we can continue to contribute and function within our society at the level we're seeing with all these accomplishments from our transgender community members. So I believe these should be covered services. They're necessary. I personally had to pay a very large amount of money out of my pocket to transition, which was quite unfortunate that is the case because these were all medically necessary procedures and services that I received with doctor's notes providing the medical necessity, yet they were still not covered by my healthcare insurance. And I know many others face the same issues. There's a lot of data out there, including in the U.S. Transgender Survey, that shows that there are barriers to accessing healthcare that's affirming, and this is a huge issue. The other thing I wanted to note, Paul, going back to a previous topic of conversation, I didn't get a chance to mention DA Roca's, has put out a tip line. Their office, it's 914-955-TIPS. That's 914-955-8477. There's multiple languages, and people can report bias and other hate incidents through this. So I just wanted to make sure we covered that as well.
Right. In terms of the health care coverage, how expensive is it to do a transition?
So as I mentioned, not everybody transitions, and different people get different surgeries depending on what their needs are and their desires are for their gender expression. So somebody like myself who has been through multiple surgeries and to express my gender authentically and be myself, this is the person I was born as, that costs over $100,000 out of my own pocket. Right. So imagine somebody that doesn't have the privileges that I do as a doctor. It's going to be very hard for our average community member to afford that out of pocket.
Has the business community or the congressional delegation or Albany, have you seen any movement that would make it easier to get the coverage?
Yes, I feel like there is movement. I appreciate actually your help with this. You supported me in speaking with Senator Schumer's office. I've also sent out letters to all my local and state representatives. I have been reaching out to community centers like the Loft to help me, advocate for other community members that are going through something similar. So this is a big financial hardship on a lot of people, and it shouldn't be, because delays to getting this type of gender-affirming services could harm a transgender person. And the other point to make is this is not just for transgender people. For cisgender parents of transgender children, their dependents in their employee health care benefits might not cover their children's health care. And so what also is the issue that can come up is, what if somebody loses their health care insurance and they can no longer afford their hormone therapy or other services? They may actually be forced medically to detransition if they can't access health care. So one of our big safety nets that I just want to mention that is in the area for people that might be experiencing this is the Callan Lord Community Center in New York City, which does provide these services, and they have charitable care. So there are people out there and community centers out there that are helping in this area. And
maybe this is something that the Greenburgh Human Rights Committee and the town could do, is provide people with information as to organizations that could provide people with the help that they may need. Because I guess it could be very stressful for somebody if they find that they feel they medically need or emotionally need to make a transition and they can't get covered for it.
Absolutely. That's something that I would be really grateful if you could distribute and disseminate for us. And I'm sure our group would be very happy to create some materials like that that provide, either local or regional support for our community. But even now with the pandemic, but just the fact that we're in 2023, there's a lot of great online and virtual options for our community. And so I really want to plug Trevor Space, which is a great nonprofit that helps LGBTQ youth, particularly around mental health, and provides actually like community spaces, virtual community spaces called Trevor Space, for them to interact in positive environments and pro-social environments. So it's a really great place to check out. There's also for parents and families of transgender youth, there's PFLAG, so you can look up PFLAG online and find your local chapter, and they can provide support for families and parents. There's a great book series called from DM Maynard. That's DM Maynard, Maynard. And they have books that really help people go through a transition for partners, for families, and schools that have a transgender person that is in these going through transition and helping people through the interpersonal relationships, how to affirm somebody's gender from more of an institutional level or a family level. So these are great resources that are out there, and happy to work with Lane Cobb and Lynn Goodman at the Greenburgh Human Rights Advisory Committee to provide these types of resources, and would really appreciate if your office can disseminate them and help us advocate at a local and state level to really have this work out there, which is so important that we advocate for this with our legislators. And I encourage all our allies out there. Allyship is an active process. It takes work, and so I really encourage you to attend our rally and learn more, and then also to write letters to your local and state legislators, make phone calls, ask them to support the LGBTQ community in their areas. And these are really important issues that we ask for our allies to help us and advocate for these issues.
Do you have a legislative package, like at the national level, state level, local levels? Have you proposed that so people who want to get involved would know what to ask our congressional representatives, our state representatives, or local officials to what they should do?
That's a great idea, Paul. Yeah, I put together some template letters, which include the statistics and just the general issues, as well as my own personal lived experience and citations to the medical journals that we can definitely put out there. And again, I would appreciate your office to help us, disseminate this and get into the right hands. But we could also provide those to community members who are allies that want to help us send these letters, because this type of work takes a community. We have to work together. We have to be unified. We have to work with the other community organizations in our areas, and we have to be one voice as we move forward. And Greenburgh is a big town here in Westchester County, and we have a big voice.
Great. Well, I really want to thank you so much for joining us on this program, and wish you best of luck, and thank you for your leadership. And we ran out of time, but feel free to call me or contact me anytime I could be of help to you or other members of the community who need my assistance.
Thank you, and join us on June 10th, and we hope to continue the dialogue with you in the town.
Great. I'm Paul Feiner, Greenburgh Town Supervisor. I'll speak to everybody next week. Thanks.